that it is being recorded and will be shared online following the event. For everyone who did register, you'll receive an email to that effect, letting you know when this is up. So you'll be feel free to kind of go back and look at it. In addition to that, the slides that you see today will be PDF'd and they'll be made available on the project websites. So that the program and the project website. So if you want to come back and look at it, you want to share it later, you want to kind of like, pull up any of the slides here with the updates on the program, the bids, yeah, they'll be made available to you as soon as humanly possible. For those who do have the ability to turn your cameras on and unmute yourself, we do ask that you leave your cameras off and remain muted unless you're speaking. If you do have any questions, please submit your questions via the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. Here we have it circled in red. There you can choose to submit the question, and while you're also submitting your question, you can check a box there if you'd like that question to be anonymous. We'll be addressing all the questions we'll be addressing questions at the end of the presentation, just to make sure we can kind of move through many of the presentations, and sometimes questions are kind of addressed as we go through everything. If we do not get to your question during the presentation, we are looking to put together like an FAQ document following the meeting where we can address some of those questions. So even if we don't get to your question before like our stop at 4 p.m., we will be able to take care of those and get out like an FAQ. And as always, you can always visit the Create Program website, the 75th Street SIP website, to submit any questions, any comments, concerns, any of those things as we move forward. And we'll be providing that information again at the end of the meeting. And with that, I want to say again, thank you, and I'll be turning it over to Bill Thompson. Bill?
First of all, thank you for those of you that have provided support to the program in the past. I mean, I know we have contractors and consultants and probably some government officials that are listening in on this discussion today, but thanks to all of you for this amazing, strong partnership we call Create. And we really are trying hard to deliver important and tangible benefits to the community, to Chicago and the surrounding area where we're building projects. And we really appreciate your support. And as time goes on, we will need more of that support. We consider responsibility of a foundation of the Create program, and we're trying our very best to be good stewards in the environment. And this means also considering the communities and all the surrounding areas where we deal with people we deal with near the projects, but also to be good stewards of the money. And there's public resources in this. There's city, state, county, railroad, and federal money in the program, and we're trying our best to be very, very good stewards of that money. And the reason you're able to see this discussion today is progress and work on the program continues, and we want to continue to be good stewards of that money and of the community. And by this discussion of the overview of the projects, the opportunities on 75th Street SIP, and some upcoming opportunities, hopefully we can answer questions you might have and keep you up to speed. So I'm sure many people that are listening here today are familiar with the Create program. It's a in the full build out, it's a $4.6 billion public-private partnership to increase capacity, to separate freight and commuter, to build 25 grade separations, and to improve the community in the vicinity of those projects. I'm gonna go off video, Keith, here, maybe just to save a little on the bandwidth here, if that was an issue earlier. But we really value the community partnership, and that's why we've held, and many of you know, have been involved in the community advisory meetings. We have community mobility work that's going on the project. We have local hiring and workforce development. We recently conducted a union outreach program. And so if you're interested in work, or if somebody that's interested in work and how do I join the union, basically you can go to the website and you can listen to the listen to the meeting that was recorded with regard to the union outreach. We have education programs involving Kennedy King College, the colleges of Chicago, and the Dawson Institute, which we very much appreciate. And of course, we have a significant DBE and minority business component, and it's all focuses on this wonderful community partnership we have that allows us to build these projects and improve the community. We have go to the next slide, please. So we have this amazing partnership among the participants. These are the people that are building the projects, that are putting money into the program. First is the U.S. Department of Transportation, critical, absolutely critical. We have both Federal Highway Administration and Federal Railroad Administration. We thank them very much for their support. There is an officer from the Federal Highway Administration embedded continuously in the CREATE program to help keep us moving forward. The Illinois Department of Transportation is an excellent partner here, and they really have oversight with regard to the finances and with regard to the environmental work. We'll talk a little bit more about that here later when it comes to the DBE component. And Cook County is an active, engaged member of the program, and they're now taking the responsibility for several of the grade separations. And CDOT has been involved since day one in the program, responsible for implementation of several grade separations. One you might be familiar with is that huge project at 130th and Torrance, which is now complete, and CDOT completed that very successfully and on budget. Also, all the railroads in Chicago are involved, all the class ones, and 2 short lines, the Indiana Harbor Belt and the Belt Railway Chicago. And I work for the Association of American Railroads and proudly represent this entire group here to you today. So what have we completed? So far, we've finished 31 projects. And we have 4 projects that are under construction. We have 8 projects in phase 2 design. And you are all familiar with that. It's an IDOT term in phase 1 design. So mostly what we'll be talking about today are those 16 projects, and do a lot of different things, including enhance safety at the grade crossings and really separate several locations where there's passenger, freight, and roadway conflicts. Thanks. So what are the needs that we have with regard to the program? It varies by project, and some projects are built primarily by contractors. Others are built primarily by force account work. This is where the railroad completes the work. But in terms of the contract work, and we have several large contract projects that are coming up here very soon. This is the type of work that you're going to see. Pretty conventional construction and all the things related to very much highway and roadway, railroad construction. And probably the only exception on here is signal and track work. So I'll just say that railway signal and track work is, for most of the projects we'll be talking about here for the next year or so, that's very specialized work. And on these projects, that work will be performed by union employees, railroad union employees, but all the rest of the stuff that you see on here will be performed by contractors for the most part. There might be a few exceptions to that, but there might be some projects in the future where we'll need railway signal contractors, but right now we don't have one of those on the horizon. So everything here is pretty much fair game in terms of the type of work that we'll need and the type of support we need in terms of construction. Next slide. So talk about the DBE participation requirements. First of all, we do use federal funds, and so because of that, we require that there's a requirement for a DBE component on most of the projects, just about every project, and those DBE contractors must go through the Illinois certification process program. Now, whether it's a railroad-led project, as in the case of the grade separations, which are city or county or state-led, or the rail projects, you must go through the Illinois Unified Certification Program. It's a very simple process to get you certified. Most of you that are in the business know that, you understand it. But if you don't, we need you to go to that certification program. Now, even if you're bidding on a program or a sub to a railroad project, you must be approved through the Illinois Unified Certification Program. If it's a CRATE project, you must go to the IDOT or the Illinois website and get certified. Typically, these projects range up to 30% DBE participation. And we wish this event was face-to-face, but we still are in a situation due to COVID that we can't, but we hope to in the future. And again, while we're going through this, if you're thinking of things that you want to ask or questions, please shoot those to Keith, and he can put those together so we can answer some of your questions at the end here. So one of the biggest groups of projects that we have coming up right now is 75th Street. And 75th Street is really 4 different projects. It's the flyover, we call it, at Forest Hill. That's what we call on this map. It's right in the center. It's called P3. Engineering is underway on that, and construction to start soon, and construction is funded. And GS19, the 71st Street grade separation, those are both going to be built simultaneously. We have funding for the design. Design is nearly complete, and we've actually started construction of the temporary track, the shoe fly track, to be constructed adjacent to the new flyover. And CSX is planning to bid the P3 and GS19 projects very, very soon. And then with regard to the rest of the projects, you have the EW2 project, which stretches on the east or the right side of this map, the Dan Ryan, over toward Columbus. That basically is almost 7 miles long, and it in its entirety is in design. And so that's future work. We're a couple of years out on that. We've got a lot of design work to do yet, but that's down the road. And then the P2 project, which is a connection between the Metra's Rock Island line and what's called Belt Junction, which is there between Ashland and Racine, is also in design. And that's another big project. And so that builds a massive flyover over the BRC, over the NS Metra tracks, and it connects to the Rock Island District. And what that'll do, that'll allow Metra to move their trains into LaSalle Street Station and take them out of Union Station, Chicago Union Station, to make more room in Chicago Union Station for other NS and all other Metra and Amtrak business that they want to add in the future. And that's basically the 75th Street. So again, EW2 is in design, P2 is in design, P3, GS19 are going to construction, and we'll get into some of the details of that here momentarily. So one of the projects that's going to be a bid here very soon is the what we call the Rock Island Metra Bridge Raise project, or Rock Island Bridge Raise. And so Metra is responsible for that. Metra has basically finished the design. It has a 30% DBE component, and they'll advertise this later this year. And basically what it does is it raises, it's a very small part of 75th Street, but it raises the Rock Island Bridge at that location, several sections of the bridge, to basically make room for the future EW2 project and the work that's going to go on underneath of it between it and 79th Street. And the reason this is being done now is because the community has asked, and Metra is delivering the new Auburn Park Metra station. That construction at station, as many of you know, has been awarded, and that's moving forward. And so right behind that will be this raise. And the idea is you do the raise at the same time you're building the station, so that you don't have to come back and redo something. But you can expect to see the advertisement of that very soon. The next piece of this is the Norfolk Southern's EW2 project. And so, as I mentioned earlier, the entire length of the project is in the 7 to 8 mile range. Norfolk Southern is responsible for about 3/4, about the western 3/4 of the design from about the Rock Island overhead to the west side of the project. And what they're doing is they're now in the process of, they have a program manager and the track design firm on board and doing the track design and layout for their portion of the design. And they are now basically ready to release the structural packages. They're going to release several structural packages, split this into several pieces, and in total, the whole project has about 100 bridges. So there's a lot of viaducts involved in this. Some of these are multiple structures with 3, 4, 5, or 6 bridges, railroad bridges over the top of these streets. But they'll be putting this design on the street here very soon and moving that forward. Again, that is the structure design. So the track design is basically underway, and NS will put out several packages for the structure design. Next slide. Then another piece that's coming up here in the not too distant future is the P2 connection, and that's basically, as I mentioned earlier, it connects the Belt Junction, which is over by Racine, to the Rock Island, and there's some right-of-way required for that to happen. And so what will be happening here is Metra will be putting out an RFP for right-of-way acquisition to basically going through the Uniform Act, basically, which is the federal process to acquire the property for this portion of the project. Metra has that in design. They're confirming basically the footprint of the project now, and then the plan is to release that RFP for phase 2 right-of-way acquisition here in the very near future. And so that's very, very specialized work for right-of-way acquisition. So then this is one of the bigger chunks of the project I mentioned earlier. This is the P3 project between Western Avenue and Damon Street. And this basically, it puts CSX over several railroads at what we call Forest Hill. That connection there where you see the tracks in the map crossing, that's Forest Hill. And CSX is finishing up that design. They basically plan to advertise sometime later this year. It's a big construction project with a massive structure with retaining walls, and it has a 2% grade, so it extends from basically 79th Street to the south to an equivalent distance on the north side past 71st Street. And then at 71st Street, we're up in the air about 15 feet, and we'll build a viaduct there. Next slide. So this is a shot that shows you what some of the conceptual designs look like for the structure, give you some idea of the layout. So there'll be a retaining type structure tied into the girders that basically are sitting on piers, and then the track will sit on pans that sit on top of all that. So the other piece I mentioned earlier, just to the north of this, is 71st Street. That'll also be bid at the same time. And that basically puts, if you're familiar with 71st Street, there's about a 3.5 or 4 foot raise in 71st Street right at the CSX. We'll take most of that out, so we'll flatten that out. But because the track is up in the air about 15 feet, we'll build the viaduct track. Basically, we'll go over the top of 71st Street, and that'll eliminate a huge choke point for the city, for east-west traffic that connects to the Southwest Highway in Columbus. And again, here's a rendition of what that construction might look like at 71st Street. So some of the other opportunities. So in Dolton, an area we call Dolton Junction, which is in the vicinity there of Indiana, 142nd, 138th, is a project that CSX has in design, and they now are finishing the design. There's still work to do with regard to some aspects of the design and some of the real estate that's being completed. But it's not a huge project, but it involves track grading, drainage, a lot of grade crossing improvements, a lot of improvements to the crossings in the area, particularly at 138th and Indiana, and queuing lanes and different curb arrangements, plus curb cuts. And I might mention that all of these involve neighborhood improvements, and so there's always a local aspect to this that involves improvements to the roadway, lighting, transitions, turning lanes, this sort of thing associated with the project. And so that right now the CSX's plan is to bid that next year. Next slide. Pullman Junction is the design on that is very close to being finished. Matter of fact, NS and IDOT and the partners are completing the review of the PS&E package, and there is a sound wall that gets built as part of that project, which is a significant part of the construction, and some other bridge improvements, along with the track and signal work that'll take several years to complete. But the plan here is to advertise it this winter, and the first part of this is construction management. And so what you're going to see is an ad coming out very soon for construction management of this project, and there'll also be a workshop held, part of the pre-award work, basically to work with consultants, contractors, and others that are interested in this work to talk about the project and some of the requirements of the railroads with regard to this construction management. Next slide. And that then comes the construction for that. So not far behind that will be the construction for that. Again, there's a sound wall, there's some bridge repairs, and then there's the track and signal work that goes along with that. But the main portion here to be built by a contractor will be that sound wall and the bridge repairs. There's also some drainage and other improvements that is planned to be built, to be bid next year, once the construction management firm is on board and NS can get working on getting their bid packages together and get those on the street. Next slide. Oh, and by the way, I should mention, backing up, that is funded, by the way, that EW3A project is funded. So some of the other projects that are coming up, very excited about the tremendous amount of work we have going on with regard to grade separations. It's really awesome. It's really a great news story. So there's a lot of opportunity here for those mid-range contractors to work on these projects. So Columbus Avenue Southwest Highway is fully funded, and that work is moving forward. And we have yet to decide on roughly when the construction is going to start, but we're hoping the end of 2022 as the design moves forward. 95th and Eggleston is underway, huge project, and that is basically in phase one right now. And that's actually a picture of 95th and Eggleston you see on the right side here. And that we're excited that that's moving forward. That's a huge bottleneck for the city. Again, major east-west route. And then Cottage Grove in Dolton is also moving forward. And the plan is the county is going to manage that. Cook County will manage that. And the plan is to, there's a PAL study going on right now with CMAP. And when that's completed, then the county will move forward with design and get the phase one started in 23. So with regard to the bid process, so there's three pieces to this that, again, we want to reinforce: the bid piece, the DBE piece, and I'm gonna talk a little bit about the safety piece here in a minute. First thing is the bid and advertisement piece. If you want to get on the list to get this information, please go to the website. And by the way, we've refreshed the website if you haven't been on there recently, so there's a lot of additional information there. But please go to the website and make sure that you're registered as a consultant, supplier, or other support services to get notices and information. We put out newsletters. You'll see all the RFPs. You'll see all the bids. and you'll see some information as it's posted to the website. But please go to the website, createprogram.org, and if you're at your computer, you can look at it right now and go to bids and fill out that document if you haven't done so to get the notices and to get this information. Of course, you still have a lot of work to do up front. We've talked through many of these projects, and there are details about these projects in terms of what they entail on the website. You can go to a drop down on the project list and see a little more detail on some of the projects, but you still have to do your homework with regard to understanding the projects, understanding the type of work that's involved in the project, and then building the relationships. If you're one of the bigger contractors in the community, you understand the scope and the size of the project. If you're one of the smaller firms that needs to set up and work on the relationships and work with one of the bigger firms that might be bidding on these projects, or if you yourself are going to bid on it as a prime, and we have had recently the design of that Rock Island Bridge raise was completed in its entirety by a prime that was also a DBE firm. So in that case, it was a smaller project, and they basically took the entire project under their wing and did a great job for Metra. And Metra tells me they're very happy with the work that was done. It's really good news. And so if you have other questions about this, please go into the chat and send us a message. Next slide, please, Keith. So talk a little bit about the DBE certification program, and just to put some of the details on the table here. Again, even if it's a railroad-led project, you must be certified within the Illinois Unified Certification Program to participate in the program as a DBE firm. So even though the project is led by a railroad, and while in the case of projects that they might be building on their own may or may not include this, in the case of all the CREATE projects, all of which involve some federal aspect, you must be certified through the Illinois Unified Certification Program. And just from a definition standpoint, 51% or more owned by socially and economically disadvantaged groups, and that includes the stock. And your daily operation must be controlled by individuals that basically are socially or economically disadvantaged. And so those are the standards. And if you want more information on that, and if you want to understand how to get registered, please go to the State of Illinois website. It's identified here. You can also Google this and look under Disadvantaged Business Enterprise Certification, and it should bring it up on your computer. But please go, and if you're not registered, if you want to participate in these projects, again, whether it's a state or city or county or railroad-led project, if you want to participate as a DBE firm, you must be certified through the Illinois Unified Certification Program. Next slide. So couple other things that I'll mention here with regard to the railroad projects. So keep this in mind. And the state has their requirements with regard to projects. If you're going to be a contractor, a consultant, in terms of what you have to do in terms of safety and training and so forth. But with regard to the rail projects, I just want to emphasize a couple of things to help those of you that might be new to the business. First of all, and there's some variation between the railroads on this, but for the most part, first of all, you must go through a contractor safety orientation training program. And depending upon the project and depending upon the sponsoring railroad, you use the safety orientation program that they recommend. The second thing is, and contractors understand this, their employees must go through the E-Rail Safe program. And that basically is if you're a consultant working directly for the railroad, or a contractor or a DB firm working directly for the railroad, you must complete the E-Rail safety program, and everybody that's working on the project in the field or on the ground must complete the E-Rail Safe program. So that's an individual employee participation, and that is a requirement. Again, if you have questions about that, In both of these, in terms of the safety orientation program training, and also in terms of the E-Rail Safe, you can go to the railroad specific websites, and most of them have information on how to register and how to set up. Now, if you're a sub to a larger firm, that larger firm is responsible to make sure you're implementing the E-Rail Safe program for your employees. And just keep that in mind, that you may not be told specifically if you're a sub by the railroad, but you must ensure that your employees go through the safety orientation training, and you can prove that, and the E-Rail Safe, and you can prove that, and the prime must then prove that to the railroads that you're compliant with that. Some of the other things is you must meet all the state and federal requirements for job safety and labor information program. As many of you know, posting of certain requirements, safety information and so forth is required on job sites, and you must comply with that. If you are operating as an individual or as a smaller firm, you must have there's safety requirements. You must have a fire extinguisher. The site must have a first aid kit. The employee working on the job must have a working telephone. So you should have a cell phone that works, that you can call 911 with in the event of emergency. And of course, now with the sophistication 911, it's fairly easy for the operators to locate you if you have a problem out in the field. You must carry some identification with you. All the employees must have identification with them. Not only could there be an incident where we need to figure out who's involved in the incident, but you could be met by the Federal Railroad Administration, or somebody could be out doing a check to make sure that you've meet all the safety requirements and the E-Rail Safe related type training. And if you, by the way, if you don't meet those requirements and you're out there doing work on the project, you could be fined, not only as a company, but also personally, for not being in compliant with the federal law with regard to safety. All of this is a requirement. And I'll just tell you, from the railroad standpoint, there's no negotiation on this. So, well, do I have to participate in E-Rail safety? I'll just make it point blank, very clear. Yeah, I'll try to make it point blank, very clear that you must comply with these requirements. And I think Keith has offered to put some of this out later in terms of some of the follow-up documentation that's going to follow here. The other thing that the railroads recommend is CPR training. They recommend that you have at least one person. Let's say you're a survey crew with 3 or 4 people out in the field doing some measurements, working for a consultant or working for a contractor. One person in that crew should have CPR. And many, if not all, of the railroad employees have regular CPR training. Most of us get CPR updates about every 2 years, and unless there's some other reason you can't participate in CPR for some reason, then essentially most railroad employees have CPR training. And in addition to this, if you go to the CREATE website, you can find information. There's a drop down on railroad safety information, and you can find information out about how individual railroads deal with safety. And there's write-ups on several of the requirements for contractors and others. If you're not familiar with railroad requirements, I would strongly suggest that you look through that and get an idea, get a sense of how the railroads think about safety. We genuinely want every employee to come in the office, or come into the work site, or come to the job site in the morning, and to leave at night without having to go to the hospital. We don't want our employees, we don't want your employees, we don't want any of the people that live around that project in the community to in any way be involved in an accident or incident. And it's all of our jobs to watch out for that and to make sure that we're compliant. So you can find some additional information about that. But many of the contractors that are listening here today understand the safety message, get it. We appreciate that, and your record shows in terms of the number of accidents you have and how you handle your business on the job. But we expect that from everybody out there to have safety as the number one concern. So I'll turn it over to Keith now, who's going to walk us through the Q&A. I think Sam Tuck was going to participate with us today, but unfortunately, I think he had a technical issue and couldn't participate. But we're happy to answer your questions. If we can't get to your question, or if we can't if we don't have access to the answer or somebody available to answer the question, then we'll defer that and do our best to get back to you. So Keith, go ahead.
Thank you, Bill. Yeah, you took the words out of my mouth. If we can't get to your question, or some of the questions that we received require a little bit deeper, we will be putting out trying to put out like an FAQ document following the meeting so that we can kind of address as many of these as possible. There's a couple that I wanted to address like off top. We received a couple questions with regard to the presentation itself. The presentation is being recorded. It will be posted on the project websites. Also, the slides will also be PDF'd and made available following the meeting on the project websites. So every one of the bids that you saw here, everything that Bill went over, will be PDF'd, made available, so you can kind of print this off and kind of put together that hit list for yourself. In addition to that, there was a question with regard to how would one become aware of the RFPs in the future. The slide just previous to this, Bill touched on that, which is the going to the createprogram.org website, and you can actually register, and you'll receive updates for all of the bids as they become available. And you can go to the site and actually see and see all of the ones that are live and available there.
So once they have, I think, Keith, it's also fair to say that once they have the video, once you go through this, look at the information on each of these projects it's an area you might be interested. For example, if you're interested in real estate, you can go to that slide that talks about the project where Metra is going to release the RFP for the real estate, and look at that, understand the project, and I'll just tell you, the RFP is coming out. So just stay on top of your game and be ready for it, and think about the location and understand the location of the work.
Yeah, and sign up for the alert, so that way when it does become available and it kind of goes out, you'll see that pop up right away for to Bill's point, the real estate. So there are a couple of other questions. Some are a little more specific, some are a little more broad. This one relates to P3 GS19. Will P3 and GS19 need construction management oversight independent of the engineering team?
So I see that Tom Livingston from CSX is on the phone. And Tom, did you want to address that, or would you like me to?
Go ahead, Bill. I'm in a rail yard here, so having trouble hearing. So go ahead.
Yeah, that's fine. Is Brett or Dave on? I didn't hear them. Hearing that, so the answer there is yes. The project will require some construction management.
Okay, short and sweet. We touched on this in a previous slide. The anticipated advertisement date for P3. I believe we still had that. It was that's actually a slide that we touched on a little bit earlier. Bill, I think going back to the P3.
Yeah. What slide was that? Yeah,
I think it was slide. Here we go. Yep, fall 2021.
It's going to be late fall, early next year.
Yeah,
we're shooting for late fall.
Yeah, shooting for this fall, but potentially early 2022.
And my understanding is, Tom, even though we talked about P3 GS19 kind of separately, it's all going to be bid as a single package. Is that correct? That's
my understanding. Yeah.
So this, just for your information, so you don't think it's going to be two separate packages. It'll actually be one large package, and there's a lot of work, and there's a lot of support required for those projects. A lot of opportunities, everything from trucking to handling concrete to basically structure assembly. just all kinds of different work, material handling. So there's a lot of work that goes into that project.
Just trying to pull together a couple of other questions here. When railroads put construction out for bids, will the engineering inspection contracts go out for proposals at the same time, or is it possible they'll go out at different times?
Well, like for example, we talked about with the Norfolk Southern EW3 project. I think if you want to back up to that construction management slide, Keith, again. So this is the construction management. So this is going out right now. Okay, so this is going to be going out very, very soon. And it's basically going to be the extension of staff for Norfolk Southern to manage the project. And now, so you can see the target award date or target advertisement date is this winter, which is very soon. And I will tell you that NS and IDOT are going through development of that bid package right now, that RFP package right now. So that's in development. So now if you go to the other, Keith, if you go to the other EW3 slide for the construction, so this follows later. This is about probably 6-8 months behind that. You'll then put out the construction. So in the case, the short answer to the question is not necessarily, but depending upon how the railroad wants to organize the work, they may decide to put those out at the same time. But generally, I think they'll want to get their construction manager or PM firm in the case on board before they actually start that heavy construction, Keith, generally.
Mm-hmm. Great. Thank you, Bill. There's there's some of the questions that kind of like they mirror each other.
That's right. If somebody's got something very specific, that's fine too.
Okay. Does the prime contractor need to be invited / pre-qualified to bid on projects, or are they able to bid just after the RFP comes out?
No, they basically anybody can bid on the project. Now, certainly you have to be qualified, and one of the requirements is to meet all those requirements. But these projects are very open to participation, and frankly, to have a firm of 10 people to bid on a $100 million project, you probably don't have much of a shot at it. You've got to have pretty deep pockets and be a pretty major player to build a $100 million project. So just a practical issue. Do you have the capabilities, and do you have the depth of organization to build and to organize the project? So there's a practical aspect to that, but basically the program is very open. Certainly as we mentioned earlier, all the DBEs must be certified. Again, if you want to back up to that slide, Kyle, again, I'm going to reinforce this. You must go through the Illinois Unified Certification Program if you want to participate in that program, either as a prime. And I said there's been some projects where DBE firms have been primes, or as a sub to one of the bigger firms.
There's a couple of other questions. There's a couple of questions with regards to.
Hey Keith, let me just let me also add. Needless to say, I should have mentioned this, but also any contractor that wants to bid on the job must be certified as a contractor in the state of Illinois, and all of the firms on the call here today understand that process. And so, you can't be disbarred, and you have to be basically be licensed to be a contractor in the state of Illinois. So that I'm just saying that goes without saying, but I just want to point that out for people that are interested.
Yeah, always good to cover all the bases. Let's see. A question here is there a list of kind of like the typical, and a couple of them are like previous, the contractors, like primes, that have actually been awarded projects for the CREATE program? And the answer is yes. On the createprogram.org website, if you click on Get Involved, one of the first drop downs is doing business with Create, and I'll drop that link in the chat. And on that page is a complete list of like every awarded vendor. So so all the firms that have actually won Create projects are there. Also, if you visit the 75th Street SIP website and go into the document library, and also doing business, the list of actually both on the Create project website and the 75th website, the businesses that have registered for Get On Board, that have registered for many of the pre-bids, and those with the pre-bids are actually all posted with their contact information from Get On Board. So that's also another really good place for you to start. This question came from a DBE, actually a couple from a DBEs, for a good place to start for all of we separated by prime and by field, by DBE on the Create program website.
You know, Keith, I'll point this out while we're talking about this. You know, we've spent, the program has spent just about $1 billion cash so far in the Chicago area. That has employed a lot of people, and that has employed a lot of contractors. And we've had a lot of bids and a lot of RFPs got over the years. And I'll just say this frankly, every one of the big firms in Chicago that you see working on the streets, that you see building projects at the airports, that you see building transit systems, I mean, all of those firms have followed and are very interested in the Create program. These are the big contractors. So if you want a list of the firms that are interested, and many of them are on the call today, they're listening to this, and they know that we've got work coming up. And if you talk to them, it's a matter of, I can't tell you, I don't know the person that you should specifically go to, but basically all the major contractors in Chicago are watching this. And I think if you call and contact them, if you have a relationship there or interest, I think they'll basically listen to you. So anyway, that's just my thought there. It's wide open, Keith, right now.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yes. And on the website, somebody kind of had a little bit of a follow-up question. Yes, if you go to the list from Get On Board and from the other meetings that we've had, it has the name, the email address, and contact information of kind of like the point person who's attended the Create briefings, and all those individuals were aware that we're sharing their information. So you'll be able to see primes, other DBEs, subs, and be able to go there and find out exactly who you should be reaching out to for any of those.
Yeah, if you have a unique skill set and you want to do this kind of work, now is the time to literally get on board and develop those relationships. If you don't have them, if you're new at the game, the people that aren't new at the game, they understand the business. If you're new at the game, you've got to work on building those relationships, and you need to start right now.
There was a question about GS21A. Just the question that's do we know like which agency is going to be leading the GS21A bid?
Yeah, so I think it's going to be the city. I'll have to let me while you're looking there, Keith. Let me look something up. Maybe is Cecilia? I guess Cecilia's on here. It's a city project, isn't it, Cecilia?
Cecilia's Cook, but I think
yeah, I know that.
I was tracking the same thing too. I was going to chime in, but hopefully you can verify. But to my knowledge, when the CDOT folks have talked about it, it's usually their program.
Yeah, Jason's on here. I'm sorry, Jason, I missed you. Maybe Jason can respond to that. Hello, Jason. Hello, Jason.
Hi, Bill. Sorry, can you repeat the question, please?
Yeah, so go ahead.
Which agency will be leading GS21A, the bid for GS21A?
So that'll be coming out of CDOT Engineering. Solomon is the project manager. It's a different area of CDOT. I don't have the specific timeline, but I believe the phase 1 coordination is nearly wrapping up, and it'll be moving into phase 2 design.
Thank you, Jason. And that kind of touches on a number of the questions that we had here. A couple of them are IDOT specific with regards to like the mentor protege program. So we're going to have to, unfortunately, we'll have to circle back with IDOT, and we'll be following up with those individuals around some of those more specific questions. Bill?
Let's take a minute to talk about that, though. It's an excellent
Okay.
program, and it's not just the railroads. You know, it's
Yep.
also the railroads involved in it. But maybe, I don't know if Tom or somebody wants to talk a little bit about the mentor protege program.
All right, can you hear me?
Yes.
I mean, we've really got a number of programs out there. Just today, I know, you know, Alicia and her group are working out with our HR team in terms of hiring people. Railroads are hiring. And really, you know, that's basically where we're spending most of our time. You know, there's some success stories out there, and we certainly want to continue that. It's very important to the people that fund this project to have success stories. So yeah. So Bill, let me know if you want me to.
Yeah, no, I think it's fair to say that well, first of all, this program was developed by IDOT mainly to provide an avenue for people in underserved communities that are interested in construction to get basically into the construction trades, which is wonderful. And it offers basic construction training for people that are interested in that kind of work. And the railroads have kind of jumped on the train here in terms of two aspects. One is our contractors can utilize some of these people that come through the training, and also the railroads have hired some of these people. So it's a very good program. And if you know people in that at 18 to 40 age range that are interested in construction trades, that haven't done that kind of work in the past and need the training, this is I think a great opportunity, don't you, Tom?
Yeah, and that's right, Bill. And there's a group called Hire 360, again, that Alicia and others have talked about and gotten us in touch with from Trinell, the consultant, the DBE consultant. So a lot of great work there. And the idea is once they're done with the CREATE project, they're certified and they're able to go on to work on the Red Line or other construction projects.
Okay, thank you very much, Tom.
There was another question that was also a little IDOT specific. Does CREATE program have mentor protege opportunities for newer DBE firms? And are IDOT pre-quals utilized and required?
So again, if you go back to the slide.
Yeah.
So I'll repeat this again. You must, as a DBE firm, you must go through the Illinois Unified Certification Program.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah.
You must go through that program. Whether if you want to bid on a rail job that's led by a railroad, one that's led by the city, the state, the county, if you want to participate as a DBE firm, you must go through that certification.
Yeah. Yes. And it's like, again, any other questions that we have not gotten a chance to go to, because we're about 4 minutes out from wrapping up. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone, for participating. Another question popped in here. Since the website has been renewed, is it necessary to re-register to be notified of RFP opportunities? The answer to the question is no. If you registered previously, you do not need to. Obviously, if you do change your email address, please do re-register. Ensure that if something changes with IT or something within your organization, make sure whoever is going to be receiving those emails, kind of checks their spam or those things. So we've had that happen where they've gone through some security upgrade and individuals have reached out, and it's been just needing to kind of go in the spam and making the create program, the createprogram.org, a recognized recognized email, and things have come through pretty smoothly.
Yeah, so I mean, I think a quick test is if you did not receive the invite for this meeting, which was sent, Keith, wasn't it, to pretty much everybody on our distribution list?
It was everyone.
If you did not receive that, then you're not on the list. So please go in. If you found out about this from somebody else, somebody told you about it, you got an email from somebody that was passed along, came from the black contractors, came from one of the other minority CDOT, one of the other minority contract firms. If you got it, if you got the information that way, you're not on the list. So you need to go into the website, and just exactly what you said is correct in that people are constantly changing firms. And if you change firms and your email changes, we don't follow you. Basically, that email gets sent out to that old address, and it just disappears. So you must go in and as Keith said, you must go in and re-register, and again, you must be certified for all these projects.
Yes. Again, thank you everyone for joining us today. The posting of this will be up as soon as humanly possible. We'll be getting an email out once it is up with a link. They will be getting the email up with a link, an email with a link to the video. Also alerting everyone of the slides once they're PDF'd, and they're also made available. And if you have any questions, as always, feel free to email us, contact us via the project website. We're here to try to address any questions that you have, answer any questions to ensure that everyone has plentiful opportunities to learn about working with the CREATE program. Bill?
Again, thank you, Keith. Thanks everybody for your time here today. We hope you've learned something from this discussion, and we look forward to your participation in the program in the future. Thanks.